Hey everyone, Ashley Mailloux, Mike Beer here, taking a look at a special Pick 5 preview this Saturday at Churchill Downs. It is Stephen Foster Day. That Grade 1 event is the highlight on their 12-race program, but the late Pick 5 features all stakes races. It gets underway in race number 8, the Tepin. That's where we're going to start things here, Mike. And I don't know what your thoughts were on the sequence. We usually kick this off with sort of overall thoughts. Felt like it had the potential to be fairly formful, but maybe in the turf races is where you can find some value.
It's kind of how I ultimately played it out, actually. I mean, the favorites just look solid in basically every one of these 5 races. And so I do think you probably got to try to pick your spots here. If you're going to play it anyway, maybe you just want to chalk it out and hit it hard. I would rather maybe take some shots against some of the shorter prices, at least in a couple of the legs.
All right, and kicking it off, I mentioned, is the Tepin race number 8, a mile event for the 3-year-old fillies on the grass. A field of 8 here has been drawn, and this is a race where you have 2 short prices on the morning line, the 5 Lush Lips and the 6 Vixen. And we'll just move right into your key use defend. I'm curious to see how you assess these 2 fillies, knowing they're going to be short prices.
Yeah, I know that they're clearly the 2 horses to beat in this race. And, I'm not going to sit here and suggest I have like huge knocks on either one of them. I think they're both pretty good, but I don't think either one of them are superstars necessarily. Their recent form is fine. They both get away from nitrogen, and that's a really good thing for both of them. And maybe ultimately it's just the right spot, Ashley. I guess I'll use them, but I also really want to try to beat them. This is one of the races where I felt like I could take a little shot against the favorites in here. And the 2 horses that I'm really interested in are the 2, and perhaps the 3, Love You Always, is entered Friday in the Penn Oaks at Penn National. I don't know which spot they're pointing for. I think she could win either one of them. And I do think she could win this race if she runs here. She's got a lot of potential, still really green, but I think she's got a lot of potential. If she runs here, I want to use her. But the horse that I'm using for sure, and then I'm going to bet to win in this race, is the 2. Something stronger. A lot to prove here right off a maiden win going 5 furlongs, but distance is supposed to be the least of your worries based on her pedigree. She's bred to go on. Really liked her effort last time. The first time they finally got her to grass last time, and she really jumped forward.
Yeah, you bring it up, an 81 Beyer speed figure for that win. And while it was at 5/8, she got the pace to close into. And you mentioned has 2-turn experience, both second place finishes. And maybe there is something to look at that race after Christmas Day down at the fairgrounds where Goel's Delight had some hype behind her kind of on the road to the Kentucky Oaks. So nice price there on something stronger, 10-1 on the morning line. I'm not going to get as creative here. I do like kind of how you assess this, and I assess it similarly. I think the 5 and the 6 are the horses, but I do feel like you have to take somewhat of a hard stand, and kept on going back to the replays of these 2 fillies and what the case is going to be. I personally prefer Vixen. I think she's a little bit more, in my opinion, a horse that typically is going to be closer to the pace. I know they tried something different with Lush Lips last time out. She still ran well, but what separated them in the end was really nothing, right? These 2 hit the wire together. It was who was going to get second, who was going to get third in the Edgewood. And I think with Vixen, you mentioned, they both get away from nitrogen. Nitrogen is her stablemate. And I go back to the races 2 and 3 back, and I think those efforts probably put her in the winner's circle. But I'm not an idiot. I know Lush Lips has some talent as well. So I don't want to put her in the use situation because I think they're both going to be really kind of low prices in here. So I kind of put her in the defend. And if I want to try to defend her a little bit, I look at her last kind of effort. I like that she showed some versatility. I don't know if that's really what they're going to do with her again, though. I don't know if they're going to have her closing from so far back. I think she's going to have to be closer. And my concern is her 2 wins that we've seen. I don't know what she really faced in them. So she hasn't been in the winner's circle since then, or close enough for my liking. So going to take a little bit of a kind of push her to the side, but defend her here in the Tepin. We'll move to race 9, Grade 3 event. It's the Kelly's Landing. I thought this was a really interesting race. It's nice to see Dr. Venkman come to Churchill Downs. You have Booth. We know how quick he is, but there are other horses that you can kind of look at and maybe make a case for. If you think the pace is hot, Happy as a Choice can close from off of it. And I think Roll On Big Joe is a little bit of an interesting horse in the mix at 3-1 on the morning line. His recent form's been really strong.
Yeah, I think that's the thing to like about the 4 is that, he's just in really good form right now. We'll see if he can keep it going as he takes on some tougher competition now. You have to start off looking at this race, though, by looking at the morning line favorite Booth and just deciding if you think he's just too good for these horses based on Beyer speed figures, recent ones anyway. That seems to be the case. Are you a believer or are you not a believer?
I'm a believer. I do think he's a legitimate racehorse. I think this is going to be a little bit of a different race for him, though, because he has Dr. Venkman. He has Roll On Big Joe, who I don't think needs the lead to win. And when we see Booth winning, at least as of late, he's made the lead, right? And I think that maybe the equalizer here is going from 6 to 6.5. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I think that's certainly one of them. Ultimately, I guess they just found another really good spot for him. I mean, so far, Asmussen's hasn't really tested this horse, and he's not really doing it again here. That makes me wonder not only how good Booth is, but how good Asmussen actually thinks he is. I don't know, man. I know that he's the horse to beat. I'm really not sold on this horse still. And I see him being a super short price in here, finally racing against some horses that I think could really beat him in here. I don't know. I'm not going to just totally toss him. If you want to put my grid up there right now, the way that I'm going to play it, I'm going to use him defensively because I know he can be. And also, just the longer I looked at this race, actually, the less I liked most of these horses. I just don't really want to have any money tied up in most of them. I will just say that one horse I don't have on there that I guess I could ultimately use is the 6 that you mentioned. Happy is a choice. I think is good enough to win here. His recent form's a little sketchy, and he's cross-entered into the DeFrancis Dash at Laurel, and that kind of seems like a better spot to me for him. I don't know where they're going to run him. If he runs here, I guess maybe I'll try to include him. I'm going to try to beat Booth with Dr. Venkman. I think he's good enough to do it. I'm not sold on Booth. Booth will be a really short price, and that might make Dr. Venkman, a little bit of value in this race as she ships in from California. This is a great spot for this horse, in my opinion.
We'll move to my keys defend. And I actually thought about using Dr. Venkman as a use or a defend. And ultimately, I'm going to go light here because I want coverage in the grass races. I think Booth, again, like you said, he finds himself in a great spot if he can still go 6.5. And I personally struggle from a handicapping perspective, if I'm being completely honest, with these sprint races, because I think sometimes you're like, oh, there's so much speed on paper, the closers are going to close, and they still don't sometimes. Sometimes the speed is just better. And I think in the case here, maybe that's the case with Booth. He goes to the front and he's able to prevail. I do think, to me, the interesting horse, he's not a huge price on the morning line, is the horse to his outside, Roll On Big Joe. Bob Hess Jr. has done a very good job with this horse and finding those spots along the way. And they put him in a grade 3 at Santa Anita. He wins. What did he beat in here? I'm not sure, but I like his efforts since then. And I just kept on going down the page where I'm not convinced he needs the lead to win. I know he's typically really close to it, but I thought his effort last time out at Churchill puts him as a big contender in here, and I think he's going to offer more value. So they both go in the key spot for me. We'll move to race number 10. It's a grade 2 event. It's the Wise Dan, a mile and a 16th on the turf course. And this is where we get a field of 9. And I think this is one of the more wide open races. I think you're probably in a camp where maybe you like 1 or 2, or you probably like 4 or 5, and you just have to decide what you're going to use.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. The two favorites on the morning line, I think, are the 2 right horses to be in those positions. They just Mercante, the 4, and Brilliant Birdie, the 7. They just ran against each other. They pretty much dueled from about the 5/16 pole to the wire and ran 1-2 in that race. And I don't know, they both enter back here. They're both in really good form, and they're both going to be, in my opinion, they're both going to be really, really tough right back.
I'll take a look at your key use defend here for the Wise Dan. And in terms of how you're going to structure this, you have just the 4 and the 7 here in the key spot.
Toughest call for me in this race was the 3, Mi Hermano Ramon, shipping over from California. I mean, I know he's good enough to win, Ashley, and I know he's dropping out of a couple of grade 1 races, and maybe he's just found the right spot here. I could go either way on this horse. I like some of his races. Particularly the race 2 starts back. I just thought he got a terrible ride from Pratt in there, and I think Pratt probably got him beat that day. That wasn't the case last time, though. He got a good trip in that race. I bet him in that race. I was kind of disappointed he didn't win last time. Not sure I want to go back to him as he ships across.
All right, we'll take a look at my keys defend, and I'm going to disagree. I'm going to use him. I'm going to use him again. I've always been a big fan of him. I think he's talented. And I just wonder, last time out, was he a little too close to it? Not a ton too close to it, but he did seem to just be, I don't know, not as good at the wire as I thought he could have been, right? Typically, when you go to those races, say, 5 back, 6 back, he's able to be there, right? And I like that it was 1 move. I don't like that he kind of just got caught there, but we'll see what he can do. Second start off the layoff. He is going to offer more value. And I mentioned, I'm just a big fan of him and his running style. I'm going to hope that he gets the pace set up. And part of the pace is going to be the 4, Mercante. This barn has done a tremendous job with this horse. He is just in really good form, and he's typically not respected, but from a pace scenario, we know what he can do. We know what he can do at Churchill. I think he's a must use. And here's where I stray a little bit. Brilliant Birdie, extremely talented. And there's so many horses that have had to face him time and time again, and he's typically finishing in front of them.
Mhm.
I don't know what their tactics are going to be with him. I personally don't like how forward he was last time out, and I think that sort of maybe is what got him beat in the grade 3 event. Races back 2 and 4 back, they put him in the mix. But I'm also concerned what the pace is actually going to be, because if Mercante does get loose in here and there isn't anyone to really pressure him, is he going to have too much work to do? So he's more of a defend for me. He's a horse that obviously I think could find the winner's circle here. I think you have to kind of, I don't know, in my opinion, trying to split these kind of favorites in a lot of these races if I can.
I don't disagree with that. I just looked at the again. I don't like the alternatives that much. I'm with you on the Brilliant Birdie trip angle too, Ashley, because when you watch that last race back, I don't think Brian Hernandez Jr. wanted to be on the lead with this horse, but nobody was going, so he just sort of took over, and I think it was the right move. It didn't work out. It was the right move, though. I don't think they'll ride him that way again. I don't know, man. I'm not in love with the 4 or the 7 in here, but I don't really like the alternatives. I might take both of them right back.
Very interesting race there in the Wise Dan. We will move to the feature on the 12 race program. It's the 4th leg of the sequence. It's the grade 1 Stephen Foster, a 1 1/8 on the main track for the older males. And just curious to get your thoughts overall on the group. I'll say this. I think it's a pretty good race.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, listen, you put up $1 million for a grade 1. I think you're kind of hoping to get a field like this in the summer, because these horses have so many options now that they don't all have to show up in one race. You got 6 really good ones in here. So I don't think you could really ask for anything more. And it'll to me, the most interesting thing about it, and I know Sierra Leone's getting bet, but I want to see how they bet the others in this race and see how this shakes out. I'm not sure I agree with this morning line.
No, and I do understand the morning line kind of being close, because I think if you go to last outs or 2 back, I mean, these horses are coming off of huge efforts, and a lot of them coming either off a win or an in the money finish. So curious, I'm gonna let you kick it off. Your key is defend here, because I think this is a tricky race.
Yeah, it really is. And there's so many horses that you could easily make cases for. I think I started off by being a little I don't know, maybe cold's not the right word. Maybe a little lukewarm on Sierra Leone, who, I don't think I hated his return to the races as much as it seems like everybody else did. I didn't love it. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't hate it. But where has he been for the last 100 days? I mean, I know that they had some other, like they were going to ship him, I think, to Saudi Arabia, and they didn't. But they just can't find another race for this horse. He's training right along, but they're not racing him. I don't really like that. The flip side, I guess, is that they are going to run him now. They're going to run him in $1 million grade 1. So I guess he's ready to go here, and he'll fire a good shot. The longer I looked at the race, the less I wanted to bet him against this field, Ashley. And so I'm going to leave him out. And if he wins this race, then I will be out of the pick 5. Same goes for Mystic Dan. I respect him, and I liked his last race, even with a perfect trip. But I'm getting beat by him against this field. Skippy Longstocking, I would never bet against these kinds of horses. And, that left me with the 2 horses in the inside. I do believe Mindframe's a really good horse. Stretching back out in distance should be the least of your worries in here. He can go this far. And he just has a chance to be the best older horse in the country, in my opinion, as time goes on. And I just think First Mission is really good. And I think he's still a little bit underrated. And I think against these horses, he might get overlooked. You might actually get a fair price on that horse. I'm using him.
All right, we'll move to my keys, defend. And we see things somewhat similarly. I'm just keen in here on the 1 First Mission. I agree with you. I think based on what I've seen in 2025, I think he's the best horse in the field in a lot of ways. And he's underrated in the sense of, I was there at Oaklawn, how he won that race. He looked so comfortable throughout. I think he got a lot out of that race. I thought his Razorback was still good. And you look at the horses in front of him. I mean, Alexander Helios and Banishing, they're serious race horses too. I'm not saying they're grade 1, but different setup. He took a huge step forward. I think he's going to have a big campaign going forward through the summer months. So he's the top pick for me. I will use Mindframe. I agree with you. The distance shouldn't be an issue. I think when you look at him, he's also developed, maybe not numbers wise, but as a 4-year-old, what we've seen in those 2, like the trips that he's gotten. He was able to close a lot differently last time out with the quicker fractions over the off track compared to the mile event at Gulfstream. And he's second in the Belmont and Haskell to Dornoch, and that's fine. But I think he's just in a different position now. So I'm actually really excited to see him run 2 turns, and maybe he just gets a lot out of this race, even if he doesn't win. And I defend Sierra Leone. I think if you go back to his best races, he's extremely talented. New Orleans Classic,
Yeah.
I think everyone thought he was going to win by a pole. It didn't happen, right? For various reasons. And you talked about they looked at other spots. I thought originally maybe the Oaklawn handicap was on the table as a target. And I thought that would have been a great race for him. They went earlier, and we haven't seen him since then. It's a little bit of a concern. I guess it's a less of a concern when it's these connections where we will see horses go to the bench for, I don't know, 180 to 365 days, and they come up and they're ready to roll, and they put in big performances. But I don't want to take him at a super short price in here where I do think others just have the fitness edge over him. So, it's an interesting group, and I'm the same thought process with you. I mean, I love Skippy Longstocking, big fan of his. He'll need to prove it to me against this group. If he does that, then, I'll have different feelings about it. And Mystic Dan, I think he's the one that probably scares me the most. He loves Churchill, and since the Pegasus, both of those performances have been really good. So I think kind of squash some of the talk about the Derby winner not being able to perform. I love those two races now as a 4-year-old since the Pegasus. So he just doesn't make the cut for me here. We will move to the final race on the card, which in my opinion, Mike, this is where you're probably going to get prices. It's the American Derby. It's a nice turf event here. It's a big field. You can see here of 10, and curious to see how you kind of look at this race. I think you obviously have to start with the one Reagan's Wit.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like a really nice horse, and I really liked Reagan's Wit's win last time. It was against way weaker horses, but I just like the way that he won it. It seems like there's a good amount of potential there, a good amount of talent there. He's got a great post for this race. I don't know, maybe he's the horse to beat. He's not the morning line favorite. I guess I understand that Tistastic will take money in here because we do know that he can handle turf. And, I don't know if you agree with this or not, Ashley. I don't even like him I don't like any of his dirt races. So I'm glad Asmussen's bringing this horse back to the grass. We'll see how he does.
Maybe that's why I called Reagan's Wit the morning line favorite here when it's really the 3 Tistastic. I agree. I'm not saying he's a bad horse by any means. I thought he ran very well in the Louisiana Derby. He got the pace scenario in front of him. And the Kentucky Derby, all the time I draw a line through it. I don't care if you finish necessarily 5th or 19th. I don't really know how to assess it, right? So now you get him back on the grass. He's undefeated on the turf. Excited to see him on a turf course that isn't Kentucky Downs. We talk about this time and time again. I don't know how to assess that for him. It's really, really tricky. And sometimes the buyers, I can't really use them as a tool. So I think Reagan's Wit, to me, out of those two, is the more intriguing one. But there's some other prices in here in terms of horses to maybe look at. I mean, I thought Flying Mohawk's an interesting horse that obviously they chased the Derby Dream. Now I think they're getting more realistic. Let's go on a surface where he's proven. So to me, I think out of some of the prices, I think Flying Mohawk is a horse that you really have to consider.
Yeah, I agree with you. Look, you can look up, put my keys and use defense up there now. I mean, I feel like, you hit all the key points I kind of wanted to hit. And I don't have Reagan's Wit on my ticket, but I understand that he's the horse to beat. But there are so many logical and shorter prices that I'm using throughout this sequence that, I don't really want to use it. If I'm going to play this thing, I'm not playing a bunch of favorites. I just don't play pick fives that way. If I'm going to play it, I'm going to try to beat favorites in at least 2 of these legs, and I'll try to do it in the first and in this one as well. I'm afraid that Reagan's Wit is going to win this race, but I'm not using him in the pick 5. And you hit all the points I wanted to hit about Tistastic, so I won't rehash it. I know he's 2 for 2 on turf, but they're at Kentucky Downs, and I'm not sure how much I trust it. So if he's going to be a short price, then he can beat me too. I'm with you on Flying Mohawk. I understand why they took the shot to run him in the Derby, but he is not a dirt horse, but he is a really good turf horse. I'm using him in this race. I thought the 5 Minaret Station, first of all, he's a great price on the morning line. I know that he's off a layoff in this race, but he ran well in all 3 of his starts as a 2-year-old. I know he was a big price when he won the Bourbon. He did not luck into that win at all. This horse really ran in there. That was a really good performance. I am using him and just hope he's ready off the layoff. And I have to use Giacoso. Feel similarly to him as I do about Flying Mohawk in a lot of ways. I mean, he's not a dirt horse. I don't even really think he's a synthetic horse, although his Jeff Ruby Stakes wasn't bad at all. And they got him back to turf last time in a grade 1. I don't think he was winning anyway, Ashley. He did not get a good trip in that race, wide around the track. And trying to mid-move around the final turn in there. I think that performance is actually a little bit better than it looks, and I think this is a way better spot for him. I'm using 3 horses in here. They're all prices on the morning line.
All right, we'll move to my keys, defend, and I am going to use Reagan's Wit, and I should say key, but my big key in here is going to be the 2. I really like Flying Mohawk. Even the race down at Turfway Park, I thought this race the horse raced a huge race. And I agree with you, though, as a used horse for me is Minaret Station. The price is good on the morning line. I'm hoping it stays close to that.
Okay.
You mentioned showed up in all 3 starts, took a step forward. And while I would love if this horse already had a race under the belt, since those races in the fall, pretty productive race when you go back to the Bourbon and you look at next out winners, second, third, and then there's 2 other horses in there. A couple of them won stakes races, and then even horses that ran in the money and were competitive. It just was a great event. So I'm curious to see what this horse can do now as a 3-year-old. It's plenty of works. They're kind of spaced equally, things that I would look for in a barn that, is picking up steam and doing a really good job with their horses and spotting them. So Will Walden, Minaret Station, I thought was a use. And I tried to look at others in here, didn't know what to do with Freedom's Not Free, the horse for Mark Glad. And it was one of those things where I'm like, if you want to beat me, I guess you can beat me in here against this group. I'm really curious to see how that horse is going to transition out to the East Coast. And I decided to toss that horse completely. So for the most part, we see this race the same. So Mike, we'll take a look at your ticket here. We showed the key use, defend angles, but let's take a look at your full ticket here for everyone. And if you want to talk through it, feel free.
Yeah, not gonna do a ton of spreading in this sequence. We already talked about how the favorites are kind of logical all along the way. I want to try to beat the favorites in the first leg and in the last leg if I can. I'm also going to try to beat Booth. Maybe that's a pipe dream. I don't know. Maybe I'm just totally wrong about him, but I don't know. I'm not convinced that he's that good, and I feel like Dr. Venkman has a real chance to beat him. So I'll try to beat that horse as well. I don't think I have anything really clever to say about this pick. I'm going to play a small ticket here, Ashley, and hope I'm right.
All right, we'll take a look at my ticket, and I'll just make a couple comments here. Obviously, I'm trying to make somewhat of a hard stand in the opener. I think a lot that I'm thinking about in the pick 5 and the pick 4, I probably play them very similarly. So when I look at the odds here for the 8th and start to see the money, maybe I don't punch my pick 5. Maybe I go for the pick 4 because my favorite races in the sequence are the last 2, right? So just something that I'll consider a little bit. I know you can obviously get a much better value, right, in the pick 5. But if I have to go that skinny early and I'm not, not liking what I'm seeing on the tote board, I'll go to the pick 4 here. But I'm going to use Booth. I am going to use the horse to its outside. You can see in race number 10, the Wise Dan. I'm still going with mi Hermano Ramon. Even though he's burdened me a couple of times, I'll still go back and see what we can do. The 4, Mercante. I think you're in the Mercante Brilliant Birdie camp, right? And they're both probably the best horses on paper. And like I said, for me, the most intriguing races are the last 2. And I think the value is really going to come in the nightcap, race number 12 on the card. We both like the 2 big prices, the 2 and the 5. And I will use the 1 Reagan's Wit. So great betting card this Saturday out at Churchill Downs. We mentioned it, 12 races. There's a plethora of stakes races and graded stakes races. Their first post is just before 1, 12:45 Eastern on Saturday. Good luck.